Since this weekend, the White House has wanted you desperately to be convinced that the talks of power struggles in the White House actually aren't happening, that everything is hunky-dory, everybody's working together, and that they're not just working together, but they're capping off an incredibly successful, productive first 100 days in office. So that's what they want you to believe. But brewing in the background, the power struggles apparently have not gone away. So I want to take you back about a week to when Steve Bannon was taken off of one of the subcommittees of the National Security Council. This was considered a big move. It brought a little bit more rationality back to the National Security Council. You had people with actual experience in intelligence and national security making some of those decisions. Now, we don't know for sure who it is that got him taken off, but a lot of people have pointed the finger at Jared Kushner. So you have the Steve Bannon coming from Breitbart, representing sort of the nativist section of the power base in the White House, and then you have Jared Kushner, a guy who is being put in charge of project after project after project, even though he's a 36-year-old guy who's only worked in real estate. But he does seem to be a little bit more rational, perhaps a stabilizing force on Donald Trump. Now, previously, Jared Kushner and Steve Bannon had spoken favorably of each other. It seemed like for some reason they'd been able to work together. But now that Steve Bannon's being pushed out of the NSC, his independent organization that had been generating suggestions for policy was apparently disbanded very quietly. It might be that Jared Kushner's star is rising in Donald Trump's eyes, and that is bad for Steve Bannon and for a lot of Trump supporters who don't like Jared Kushner. They want the white supremacist part of the White House to reign supreme. And so back after he was taken off the NSC, you then saw suspiciously Breitbart, which Steve Bannon used to head and of course very influential at, published 4 articles about Jared Kushner that were all negative, all on the same day, highlighting his meetings with the Russian ambassador, which we know is a hot button topic right now, questioning the ethics of his business dealings, including his dealings with Chinese businesses, criticizing his thin resume in diplomacy, and speculating about whether he is the source that's leaking negative stories about Bannon as they leak information about Jared Kushner. And I just want to show you one picture of one of these articles. They put out like a BuzzFeed style list of 5 delicate problems that Jared Kushner is going to, and then of course the picture of him laughing as he flies around in a helicopter. So now that has stopped, and we've heard that Donald Trump said you guys have to get along, you have to talk it out. Then word came out that Breitbart writers had been told to stop writing the negative stories about Jared Kushner. But we also know, and I'm gonna get to the video a little bit later on, that Steve Bannon was not just like peeved about being taken off the NSC, he's actually like in a rage. And so what do you guys think? Do you think that they've worked it out, that they're going to somehow share power? Is that in the nature of someone like Steve Bannon?
Steve Bannon does come from that white nationalist school of thought. And I just want to really emphasize that, because that Breitbart story accusing Kushner of having a thin resume on diplomacy is so incredibly ironic, especially if it was written with the intent to defend Bannon and to basically, insult Kushner. Bannon is a nightmare. And so if Kushner is the force within the administration that keeps the white nationalist school of thought in check, then I'm happy about it. I don't believe for a second that the infighting has stopped. I think that it will continue because ideologically there are some differences there, and there's significant differences. And look, Kushner is an Orthodox Jew. And when you have white nationalist forces within the administration and people backing that ideology, you're gonna have the infighting, and I'm glad that it exists, because someone like Bannon, I think, is incredibly dangerous, and I hope that Kushner does have a little bit more power than he does within the administration.
I just think we're screwed. I mean, any way you look at it. I mean, the fact that these guys are arguing, it's like 2 months in, they're arguing, they haven't gotten anything right. Very little right. Then he launches these missiles, and then some people say it was right. I still don't agree with that either. So there's a big mess going on, and 2 of his main guys are arguing. That does not induce confidence. There's a lack of experience here. No one is qualified to be in these positions until the General McMaster, was it McMaster? Those guys come in, and then they go, okay, you know what? Let's get this. Let's get this. He's probably looking over. He's like, what's Steve Bannon doing here?
Probably. I mean, I wouldn't blame anyone, with experience feeling that way.
Yeah, and Trump is so triggered. Like he seems to just change alliances. He's like, oh, you're right, Bannon, get out of here. And Bannon's like, what? You know, it's just I don't feel like there's a good guy in power, and the advisors either. Actually, I found it ironic that it was kind of funny that he keeps saying Kushner all these like dangerous areas. He's like, maybe he doesn't like his son-in-law. He's like, you go to Iraq, I'm going to Mar-a-Lago. Yeah. What the, you know what I'm saying? But honestly, the other problem with this, which is frustrating as hell, is when you watch someone from the White House or one of Trump's surrogates saying, no, there's no big deal. This has been the best. Trump himself, been a successful 100 days. And you're like, what reality are they watching?
Well, I think that it's in their best interest to pretend as if everything is going smoothly, right? I don't think that they're even necessarily in denial. I think that they just want to straight out lie to the American people, and hopefully some will really buy into this narrative that the media is lying to them and that everything's actually going very smoothly. But I think Americans are starting to wake up, which is a good sign. Yeah. But I agree with you. I'm not trying to say like, oh, we have Kushner there and that's like the good force is fighting the bad force. No, we have one bad guy and then one guy who's worse, right? And when we're talking about the Kushner-Bannon issue, there are a lot of issues with Kushner, don't get me wrong, but at least when it comes to this white nationalist ideology, Kushner could be, and I hope is, a mitigating force.
Yeah, and we actually saw, I mean, we reported yesterday on the response to Trump launching the attacks into Syria. So how do his big supporters make ends meet in their head on that? Well, they say that it's not Donald Trump. He doesn't actually want to do that. It's the Jews in the White House that are making him do that. And so they attack Kushner, they attack Ivanka Trump. It's no coincidence that those guys also like Steve Bannon. And I agree that either way, regardless of which has Trump's ear, we are screwed. But I think we're screwed in very different ways.
Right.
I think that with Steve Bannon, we get Muslim bans and we get a much more disgusting foreign policy. I think that's true. We also get some incompetence because he doesn't know government any more than Jared Kushner does. With Jared Kushner, I don't think that we have that sort of ideological extremism in terms of a social policy, hatred of Mexicans or gays or anything like that. But I do think we'll get far more corruption. I think that Jared Kushner is in there to get, like Breitbart says, to get sweetheart business deals for his own family, which is tied in with real estate. And I think that him combined with Donald Trump, I think that they are going to loot the federal government for their own purposes. And it's up to you to decide if that's better or worse than Muslim bans and those sorts of things.
Yeah, and listen, people say, oh, Hillary was crooked, this was crooked, like the politicians are crooked. It's human nature. These guys are going to get in there. They're all powerful people. Trump's a businessman. They're all going to be there doing a lot of stuff that's crooked, taking advantage of their opportunities for their own business purposes, or trying to implement their own ideologies. And the thing is, though, it just, again, it goes to this thing where you hear people in the election, people were saying, I want an outsider. I want an outsider. He was going to clean the swamp. I want an outsider. It's the only job in the world where people say they want an outsider. You don't hear people go, I want a surgeon who's an outsider, someone who's never done this before, who will surround himself with other people who've never done this before.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's just, it's really frustrating watching these guys, thinking to myself, I feel like I know more about foreign policy than these guys do.
Absolutely.
You send a 35-year-old real estate developer to Iraq to do what? What is he going to do in here?
To manage the peace process in Israel.
Yeah, I mean, it blows my mind. I'm not defending Steve Bannon at all. Steve Bannon is scary. Like, as an Iranian American, that guy is super scary. So we're screwed.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and it is really scary. But I think what people were tired of during the election was like this fakeness and this inauthenticity that you see with a lot of standard politicians. They wanted someone that they could actually identify with, who would at least pretend like they understood the economic issues that they're experiencing. And unfortunately, a lot of people did get conned by someone like Trump, because look, he's the #1 swamp monster. He's the type of person who's exploited a corrupt political system for his own personal gain for a very long time.
Yeah.
He has taken advantage of that system, so there was no reason to believe that he wouldn't get elected and fill that swamp up with monsters just like him.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, people did get conned. He's still there, and when people wanted an anti-establishment politician, they unfortunately voted for the wrong one. There was one anti-establishment politician, and unfortunately, he didn't even get an opportunity to run as the front runner for the Democrats.
Yeah, listen, I'm someone who's very, I'm not a hawk at all. I'm much more peaceful, and you know, I want diplomacy. But when I see he's bringing some of these generals in, I actually feel a little bit of comfort. I'm like, okay, well, these guys got some experience. Now they're probably going to push for war with somebody, but at least they kind of know what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Some of them, the ones who are looking to jobs as lobbyists for the defense contractors, they might well push for war. But at least the soldiers know the cost of war. They know, they've seen dead soldiers. I mean, they filled the White House with these guys who, it's just been like Ayn Randian power fantasies their whole life. They don't actually know what the real world is like. I want to turn back to Steve Bannon though, because there's a reason I don't think that this is done, and that I think Jared Kushner should watch his back. So first, I want to show this video of Joe Scarborough, who apparently has inside sources about just how angry Steve Bannon was.
Steve Bannon is an island unto himself in the White House. Any allies he may have had have scattered, and all have told the president they are with the president and they are with his family. I just think it's a matter of time. Does he decide to be Kellyanne Conway and stay in the White House with no authority and hang on? Or does he leave the White House? Well, then I talked to 3 of the top president's people yesterday. They do not understand what happened to Steve Bannon, why he decided to start attacking the president's family. And the word I heard from all 3 was, he just snapped. And that's causing concern from the president down, that somebody would be this unbalanced, that somebody would be this undisciplined, that they would just snap and start attacking the president's family.
So apparently Steve Bannon snapped. And then you began seeing the Breitbart articles attacking Jared Kushner. Now, something else happened in that period at the end of last week that nobody's talking about any of this anymore, because 59 cruise missiles were launched in an airfield in Syria. But I noticed that amongst the different articles that were apparently probably being inspired by Steve Bannon to attack Jared Kushner over, there was also all of a sudden, months after Jared Kushner had to finish his security clearance application process, all of a sudden, right after Bannon is taken off the NSC, a story about Jared Kushner's security clearance hits the news. So when Kushner sought top secret security clearance, he was required to disclose all encounters with foreign government officials over the last 7 years. Kushner did not mention dozens of contacts with foreign leaders or officials in recent months, including a December meeting with the Russian ambassador and one with the head of a Russian state-owned bank. So that information could have come out months ago, but it came out right during their feud. Now, that, not mentioning that you've met dozens of times with Russian officials, you can make of that whatever you want. But we know that we're in a climate right now where Mike Flynn just had to step down because of lying over his meetings with Russian officials. So that's not just here's 5 things that he's not qualified to run. That's a knife in the back, an attempt to get Jared Kushner to have to step down. It didn't work, partially because the news immediately turned to Syria. This story has now been forgotten, nobody cares about it anymore. But I believe that Steve Bannon might have been involved in that story being leaked, and that is not just like a punch in the gut, that's a knife to the throat. He was trying to take Jared Kushner out of government there.
Wow.
It didn't work, but the next one could.
Just listening to you explain that right now reminded me of The Godfather. It feels like there's a lot going on. Like Jared Kushner's kind of the Michael Corleone, you know what I'm saying? And you got and then the Turks, Solazzo is trying to move in and sell drugs. And that's Bannon. You know what I'm saying? And Barcini's involved somehow. This is very, like, you should watch The Godfather again. It will teach you how this White House is being run.
Yeah, that may be true, but I hope that in 4 years we don't get a sequel.
I hope, I definitely, we hope that it stops, But the other thing is, it's interesting because I just watched Scarborough talk. It's interesting, he's right. Like Flynn is gone, Kellyanne has kind of been demoted, Bannon might be gone. It feels
Sessions
like
had to step down for those same sorts of things.
Yeah, and Nunez. It feels like Trump's White House is more like his TV show The Apprentice. Like he just keeps firing people.
People get fired, demoted all over the place.
And at the very end, it'll just be one guy. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he thinks he's on the show.
It's still going on. Maybe we're all on the show.
We're not the Young Turks, you're the Young Turks. You power this show. Together, we built something amazing. We've broken stories like the Donna Brazil story the mainstream media wouldn't break. We built the studio, we built this network. It's now #1, all thanks to you guys. Let's come build it even bigger and stronger. TYTnetwork.com/join.